From the times she was sick in bed, they were always together, gradually appearing. He was the one who, more than anyone, had longed for the warmth of family. Approaching the Count's face, sunlight shone through each window frame, creeping into every corner of his face, making the scene even more shimmering. His eyes held a hint of sadness. Without you, perhaps Father would have just barely survived day by day in this silent place until the end of his life. You have made me want to live. Your existence means that much to me. It's been a long time since I've had something I could call family. So, I don't want to lose it. As he spoke, he gained love and looked toward his daughter. He placed his hand on his daughter's, holding those small hands, and said that no matter what your status is, you will always be my daughter. He gently placed his hand on her head, stroking it as if comforting her. If you remember Halo, the place where you are raised, you will understand that Halo never abandons its own. Now that I know the secret you've been hiding all this time, I feel relieved inside, and I'm happy because you told the truth instead of harboring resentment. He was gentle, forgiving, and smiled brightly for his daughter. That made Fiona feel even more emotional, and she asked, "Do you believe me, Father?" The Count gently replied, "I have met you and gained a small world called family. I have resolved to live to protect that world. How could I deny such a world?" After saying that, the Count embraced her. At the same time, tears fell from Fiona's cheeks, sparkling in the morning light like diamonds dropped by a princess. She then hugged her father tightly. "I will wait for you at Halo." The two embraced, and the scene moved me deeply, helping me understand the meaning of fatherly love, a bond that cannot be broken or destroyed. The Count's voice was sweet. "All right, my beloved daughter." Hearing beloved daughter, anyone would soften and return to their room. Fiona stood before the table thinking and finally felt like she was home. She smiled, looking around. The more she looked, the more thoughtful she became, as if recalling old memories by the campfire, quickly getting used to Halo's cold. Even the northern wind seemed to welcome her. The scene appeared. A mystical, purple-blue sky, climbing a mountain range with wind at her back, and once again finding that person. She appeared in a red outfit standing before the vast sky. The one who had left took the spirit but returned. Before her eyes was a dragon, but it looked like a fierce beast, glowing bright red, powerful, with sharp claws and piercing eyes. Fiona shouted in panic, "Clement, I have come to seek knowledge to protect those I love." She placed her hand on her chest, her delicate face speaking. Fiona's sudden appearance awakened Clement, so she apologized shyly. "Sorry for waking you, great red dragon." Lying over there, she croaked, "No need to apologize, young creator. I said I would sleep until you bring me the heart of my friend." Fiona vanished and returned holding a small, ornate red box containing a black petrified heart. It glowed inside the box. Fiona's ruby eyes sadly looked down at the heart and said, "As promised, I have brought the dragon's heart." She hesitated and added, "Before returning it to you, I want to ask permission for something." Hearing this, Clement tilted his head toward Fiona and asked, "Permission?" Fiona held the black heart with both hands. Without beating around the bush, she went straight to the point. "To eliminate the darkness, I need a large amount of holy power." Fiona clenched her hands. Suddenly, the bed holding the black heart disappeared. She continued, "And I heard the dragon's heart is an environment that enhances the strength of holy power." Fiona clenched her hands, placing them on her chest as a symbol of promise, with determined eyes looking at Clement. "May I borrow that heart until the final battle with the darkness ends?" Clement frowned, pondering Fiona's question. He wanted more information, so he asked her further, "Are you planning to use the dragon's heart to prevent disaster?" Fiona's face was serious and resolute as she looked at Clement. She affirmed her intention. "I want to change the ending of this story." Back in the capital under the blue sky, white clouds, and golden sunshine at the Duke's mansion, Priscilla, in a large meeting room, a few rays of sunlight shone through the windows. 3 people sat facing each other. One began, "Thank you for responding to my summons." His purple eyes were serious as he stated the purpose of the meeting. "I invited you 3 here, not for any other reason but to destroy the darkness." The 3 listened as he explained the current situation. "The young Duke has left Halo to seek power to destroy the darkness, but with only Miss Fiona's strength, it might not be enough to defeat the darkness as she grows stronger," he emphasized. "The necessity of each person in this battle, so everyone's help, especially St. Eunice's, is extremely important." Eunice bowed her head in silence, thinking, then spoke up in front of the other 3. "Can I help in any way?" Unpleasant memories flooded back as Eunice recalled previous battles. The scene of burning all around, black smoke engulfing everything, made her scared. She clenched her two trembling hands over her chest and said, "My power is small and weak. If I am useless in fighting the darkness, then what will happen? Then the world will fall into even more chaos." Eunice's voice grew quieter. "I'm sorry for saying such weak words, but right now, I have no confidence at all." Aaron looked at St. Eunice thoughtfully and then Aaron analyzed Eunice's psychology when facing something alone, not knowing if she could win or lose. Fear is natural. Hearing this, Eunice paused for a few seconds and looked at Aaron, as if finding someone who truly understands her feelings. St. Eunice called his name Marquis Aaron. He smiled upon hearing this, lifting her spirits. The image of St. Eunice praying with folded hands in the cathedral appeared in Aaron's words. To defeat the darkness engulfing the world, we need the power of light, the opposing force to it. That is the power only Miss Eunice can control. Sunlight flooded through the window, illuminating the dark corner of the room like Aaron's affirmation that darkness will surely retreat before dazzling radiance. So, definitely darkness will fear Miss Eunice the most. After saying this, Aaron raised his hand toward those sitting opposite, volunteering. "I also intend to go to Halo." Aaron added further proof. "To be able to help myself participate in the upcoming battle, I have not given up researching darkness recently. My knowledge will surely help." Aaron's eyes turned back to Eunice sitting beside him. His gentle voice said, "She would not be alone. The final piece creating hope to move forward will be created together by everyone." Aaron's words surprised Eunice but also strengthened her spirit. Libya reached out to touch the hand resting on Eunice's thigh. Libya's hands tightly grasped Eunice's hand and said, "No. No one is unaware that Miss has purified the dead land. Until now, Miss. Fiona also knows that effort. So she came to ask for your help." Libya's eyes sparkled with tears, full of joy and gratitude. "Eunice, I believe in what she trusts in you, so let's believe in that together, okay?" The gentle question and trust everyone gave to Eunice through Libya moved her deeply. Eunice didn't hesitate and asked Libya, "Miss Libya, are you really going to Halo?" Libya closed her eyes to hold back tears and replied, "No, if I go to Halo, it will only be a burden." Libya looked at everyone and then proposed, "I can't use force, so I will stay here and do what I can." Libya mentioned that the conquest of darkness will take place in the north, which is also Halo. Libya held Eunice's hand and smiled, saying, "But I will support important tasks, just as much as fighting alongside everyone. We must return safely with Miss Fiona and Prince Sigrun." Libya's motivating words and blessings filled the meeting atmosphere with a victorious spirit. Moreover, after the meeting, everyone gradually prepared weapons and supplies to set off. Meanwhile, in the north, snow kept falling. The wind howled coldly, piercing the skin. A mountain range covered in pure white snow made the long journey tiring. Fiona saw this and thought of a vacant land far from residential areas and also far from the monster's dwelling. The desolate, cold scene here. Wind blowing and snow flying wildly before those two people. The wind kept howling, messing up Fiona's hair. She thought the plan for the battle, if it lures the darkness here to fight, then no innocent will be harmed. After thinking, Fiona put her hands on her hips, standing proudly against the snowy wind. "The darkness will definitely follow me. This place is the optimal condition to lure her here, right?" Prince Sigrun turned to Fiona to answer her question. "Yes, this place is completely isolated." Siren stared at Fiona and said, "It's really fortunate that Eunice will help us. We will arrange troops around Eunice and wait here. To protect the one who can use divine power, Eunice must be the top priority. But I have a question." He spoke up. Fiona wanted to hear his question. Siren asked without hesitation, "If Fiona is the one who designed this world, then why did you give Eunice such tremendous power? You should have given it to me instead." After hearing that, Fiona was stunned for a moment. She was sweating, not knowing how to explain, trying to buy time to find an explanation. Well, she was just talking to herself in her head, thinking everything would go this way after abandoning the female lead. But she cautiously asked him, "Can I be honest?" Siren became really cautious and said, "Go ahead, I'm curious." Hearing that, Fiona stepped closer to Sigrun. "Then lean your ear here." Sigrun immediately bent down and leaned close to her ear. Fiona whispered helplessly, "Actually, Eunice is your destined lover." She continued whispering, "You are the male lead. Eunice is the female lead." Her words made Siren feel like a question mark exploded inside him, as if his love for her was breaking in two. Siren didn't want to believe that truth and asked Fiona, "Are you joking?" Fiona, sweating, answered, "It's true." Hearing that answer, Siren crossed his arms and looked at her as if he just realized something new. He only said, "Ah," in a prolonged tone. Leaving her speechless, Siren recalled those days and now understood why she always acted so foolish before. Hearing that, Fiona didn't understand and asked with big question marks, recalling the scene when Siren stared at Eunice and then the two walked away. Eunice said, "Thank you for helping me." Siren stopped walking and said, "Well, I'm off now." Fiona felt disappointed and asked, "Is that all? What about love?" Siren, carrying his sword, saw her acting foolish and asked again, then used his index finger to push her forehead in a loving scold, thinking nonsense again, then back to the present, still using his index finger to push her forehead lovingly. "All your silly and random words are actions with intention. Considering the future, where you and Eunice will fall in love, right?" Fiona bit her lip, not daring to reply, then happily said, "According to the novel I wrote, everything happens like that. It's normal, but you really don't feel anything when you see Eunice?" Fiona teased, poking his cheek, happily saying, "Anyway, she's the wonderful female lead, created according to your ideal model." Siren helplessly said, "No feelings at all." She still pushed, "It's just revenge. It's unreasonable. Eunice is so cute, yet Siren lets her tease you." Siren puffed his cheeks, blushing, with a tone both jealous and teasing her. "Maybe she's your type, Fiona's, not mine." Hearing that, Fiona stopped, realizing Siren was angry. Nevertheless, she continued poking his soft cheek, making him angry but amusing her, thinking Siren was adorable. Seeing Fiona's delighted face, Siren turned and hugged her rosy cheeks, scolding, "You're making me confused and you're still smiling?" Fiona explained further, "Eunice is a child gathered from the illusions you created." Siren gently touched Fiona's lips, then leaned close to confess his feelings. "In my eyes, you are the most beautiful." Fiona closed her eyes, blushing deeply. Siren saw that and blushed, gently calling her name Fiona. She spoke softly, her throat trembling, blushing. He embraced her, saying, "If everything goes smoothly." Siren held Fiona's head to his chest and rested his chin on her head. Both blushed shyly. Siren regained composure and said, "Then I will propose to you." Hearing that, Fiona blushed. Imagining if everything ended in a snowy space with wind blowing around, the couple embracing, Fiona knew Siren understood her well. No one could hold her tighter than Siren. She buried her head in his chest. "No matter what happens, even if everything ends, we will still be together." Fiona thought about his words. He said that to her. Both faces were flushed, not because of the cold, but because they were shy, holding each other. Fiona grabbed his shirt and thought, "Siren, whenever you're like this," she didn't hesitate to lift her legs. Both hands reached up to hug Siren's neck and kissed him, saying, "I'm even more looking forward to the proposal." She wished that every moment like this made her crave the future more, imagining a future where they would be together forever. From afar, a hand belonging to someone growled angrily, wanting to break the couple's happiness. From the image appeared a girl with an unclear face, but her expression was clear enough for anyone to know how angry and chaotic she was. Eunice stood up and looked up at the sky before her, thinking the darkness was getting thicker, different from before. It was darker and deeper. At that moment, Kwangto's words pulled her from her thoughts back to reality. "Dinner's ready, come eat before it gets cold." Eunice knelt down and accepted Kwangto's words politely. "Thank you, Kwangto." Kwangto replied, "Eunice, you don't have to thank me so much." Eunice heard that and gently said, "But thanks to you, I arrived at Helen safely and quickly. Miss Kwangto didn't pay attention. That was the mission I was assigned, and tomorrow we will go to Hayland. The battle with the darkness is also approaching." Eunice lowered her eyes with a bit of worry and said, "Yes, that's right." Kwangto noticed her expression was a bit different and asked if she was worried. Eunice didn't hide it and replied, "I am very worried and also scared." Finally, Kwangto was thoughtful for a moment. Fear can increase the chance of survival, so feeling a little scared is also good. He looked at Eunice's trembling hands and chuckled, then teased, "But with hands shaking like that, eating will be difficult." Eunice was embarrassed hearing that, and apologized for making him see her like that. Kwangto glanced at Eunice and whispered suddenly, "It must be tough for someone unprepared, but with the power to save the world, you might think this is a kind of disaster sent from above, right?" Eunice was silent for a moment, then frankly said, "Yes, sometimes I think like that too. But not now. I am not alone when cornered. Everyone is cheering and helping me. I want to protect my people with my own strength. Kwanto was surprised by the little girl's strength. He looked at her attentively and sincerely said to her, "You once saved Fiona from the darkness, right? I think that's called divine power. People praise it. It is the only counter to the darkness, and whether that power is great or not, I don't care. The young duke is the same. A powerful mage without rivals, that's all I know." Kwanto expressed admiration for her. "But I have seen you show resilience and courage before the darkness that swallowed the Empire's strongest mage in an instant. That spirit is not something anyone can have. For ordinary mercenaries like us, that's magic and divine power. You can do it seriously," Kwanto joked humorously. "By the way, are you interested in being a mercenary?" At Kwanto's sudden change, the junior sitting behind was a bit helpless. "Who hires a saint as a mercenary?" Miss Kwanto sighed loudly. Watching the two talk back and forth like that, Eunice covered her mouth and laughed gently and sincerely. "Thank you, Kwanto, for trusting and believing in me. Because everyone believes in me, I can also believe in my own abilities now." Kwanto also smiled, thinking to himself she is no longer trembling. He did not give up trying to recruit her. If this battle ends well, then consider it. Eunice asked about what. Kwanto replied to the recruitment proposal for the mercenary group. Eunice asked suspiciously, "Isn't that just flattery?" "I'm serious," Kwanto answered. Back to the battlefield in northern Hayland. Outside the tent was a snow-covered sky full of cold, but inside seemed warmer. Thanks to blazing torches, 3 people stood looking at the battle map. Aaron spoke up, "Miss Eunice has arrived safely, so preparations are complete to face the darkness." Fiona nodded in response. "Yes, that's right." She thought silently, "Standing here like this makes me feel the battle is finally coming. We must focus intensely so everyone is safe." Aaron clasped his hands behind his back sincerely. "It's really lucky to cooperate with Miss Fiona. My dark path finally sees the light. When everything ends, I will officially thank you." Fiona was a bit worried, thinking, "Aaron, if this goes smoothly, then the after effects tormenting Aaron will disappear. Can I take responsibility for that?" She looked at Aaron attentively, then affirmed herself, "I can. Everyone standing here will create a world where everyone can be happy, without worry or insecurity on the battlefield." Fiona was serious. "It's time, young Duke. Let's start," Aaron said to Fiona. "If we focus Miss Fiona's magic power in one place, then the darkness will appear." Aaron instructed his soldiers, "If you sense signs of darkness, act according to the plan immediately. Understood? We will protect the entire fighting force." When the darkness appears, a lead soldier responded, "Yes, sir." Aaron gave a firm order to take battle positions. Fiona looked at Aaron crossing his arms directing there. She gently said, "Father, it's not necessary. Just support from behind." Aaron stubbornly didn't want Fiona to worry about his health, so she said, Father is not young anymore." Aben, hearing that, felt insulted about his age and pinched his cheek. Fiona pouted. "This kid actually sees Father as an old man?" When Fiona got pinched painfully, she hurriedly, "I understand, Father. Let me go." Aben pondered, looking at Fiona, then gently raised his hand to stroke her hair, making Fiona look at him with confusion. Aben looked straight into his little daughter's eyes. He lovingly confided, "Father, don't overexert yourself. You don't have to bear all the responsibility alone. I'm here to share it with you. My daughter, be safe, and let's return home together." Fiona was touched and gently replied, "Of course, Father." Fiona turned to the young man standing beside her and called, "Sigrun, are you ready?" Sigrun seriously said, "Ready." Fiona closed her eyes and focused her magic. She said, "Then I'll start now." The streams of magic power gathered, forming twisting beams of light that enveloped Fiona's soul essence. They intertwined and shot straight up into the sky. Watching the magic manifest its power, Fiona whispered, "If you sense my trace, don't hesitate to come to me." Fiona's magic successfully lured the darkness to appear. The voices of soldiers echoed. The darkness. The darkness appeared, ready to fight. Fiona welcomed her soul essence, focusing intently. "Come here, Fiona. It's time to end our story." Siren also saw him and shouted, "They're here!" The dark power rushed in like a gust of wind streaking across the sky. Aben raised his hand to block the dark magic as he sensed their approach. But after a while, nothing appeared. He looked up confused. The dark power had been stopped. Aben suspected and thought to himself, "Is this a protective magic created by Count Aaron?" He praised, "It's quite effective." The darkness was just grazed. Sigrun carefully thought and said to Abin, though effective, the amount of power it can block is limited. So if there's a strong attack, we must dodge. We have to be careful. If it feels unsafe, we should retreat. Being insulted about his age by both his daughter and beloved student, Abin was so angry he burst out laughing. Both his daughter and student took turns treating him like a frail old man. Abin and Sigrun charged into battle against the swirling dark magic. Abin angrily shouted, "Damn it!" Fiona's soul essence stood proudly within the dark vortex, arrogantly saying, "You fools dare struggle? Such petty tricks won't stop me." "Ridiculous," she crazily continued. "All of you will die because of me, those standing on this land. No one can survive. I'll make you live in torment and suffering for your sins. Living like that forever, you might understand half of my pain." A flash of light appeared. Fiona was not afraid of that mad threat. She held a small red object in her hand, aiming it at her soul essence. "Perhaps I won't be so easy to deal with," she said, then extended her hand for her to see the object clearly. Fiona's soul essence examined the small item carefully and easily recognized it as a dragon's jewel. Fiona confirmed, "Yes. You know what it is, right? It's Clement's dragon jewel," Fiona added. "With the power of this jewel, I will separate the darkness from you." Fiona's soul essence couldn't believe it. She angrily rushed forward and shouted, "Impossible! Give me that jewel now!" A loud explosion rang out. Eunice also charged into battle. A golden light radiated from her. Eunice spoke with determination. "I won't let you take it so easily." Seeing the newly appeared beam of light, Fiona's soul essence doubted the divine power and said, then aimed straight at Eunice and charged, "You're too slow! Get lost!" Eunice unleashed her full divine power. Just as Fiona's soul essence's dark power reached Eunice, another person rushed in to shield and protect her, using their own magic to repel the dark magic. "How dare you touch my precious junior!" Kwang Tu shouted. Eunice looked at the protector in front of her. She spoke sincerely. Kwang Tu thanked Fiona, who approached and asked Eunice, "Are you okay?" Eunice replied, "I'm fine. Everyone, don't worry about me. Let's quickly deal with the darkness." "Understood," Fiona replied. Being attacked with no way back, Fiona's soul essence shouted, "Don't stop! The jewel is the crystallization of power that brings life, almost eternal," Clement's dragon had once said. "You who are worthy, you already know how to use the jewel." Fiona closed her eyes. "Using the jewel to create my power, the origin of magic is faith. When there is deep faith and a plea with willpower, that will become a wish and be fulfilled, realizing I have completely lost to Fiona's soul essence, begging, 'Please don't take it away. You can't do this to me if you take away my dark power. Then what must I do to overcome this hellish pain?'" Her voice faltered. "Fiona, I have the will, the desire that I crave." Everyone was staring at the battle in front of them. Everyone held their breath waiting for the result of Fiona. Unleashing the power of the jewel attacking Fiona's soul essence, the darkness suddenly vanished. The sky brightened again. Fiona looked at the jewel in her hand, thinking aloud. It succeeded a voice called Fiona. At that moment, Fiona felt something strange in her body. She raised the hand holding the jewel to look. Suddenly, she realized her body was gradually disappearing. She panicked. Why this feeling is not losing, but rather being sucked somewhere more accurately. Siren turned around, seeing Fiona gradually vanish. He was extremely scared. Shouted loudly, "Fiona!" Fiona also looked at Siren. She stretched out her vanishing hand, trying to reach him. Siren rushed quickly, but was one step too slow. He rushed, but Fiona's body had completely disappeared, leaving him only able to embrace the air and Fiona's remaining breath. Siren's face turned pale, looking down at his empty hand. At this moment, everyone else ran over. Everyone's face was shocked, unable to believe what they saw. Fiona had completely vanished without a trace. Only the blazing red jewel remained lying on the white snow. Everyone fell into a deadly silence. The space was dead silent. Only the cold snowflakes silently fell. Eunice, after being stunned, covered his mouth softly, breaking the silence. Fiona. Siren was speechless, burying his gaze into the jewel. After a moment, he slowly opened his mouth, uttering one word, "Fiona." Then, as if remembering something, he stood up, suddenly rushed to Marquis Clovis, gripping his shoulder, shouting. Everything was supposed to go according to plan. Why did Fiona disappear? Where is Fiona? Duke Aben still kept calm, trying to stop him. Siren. "Calm down. Don't ask so many questions." Marquis Aben was so angry. He said half a sentence, then froze. Noticing Siren's gaze was strange, his eyes now soulless, mumbling. Why? Why did I always let Fiona slip away in front of me? He continued mumbling. Master a world without Fiona means nothing to me. Both Duke Aben and Marquis Clovis were stunned at his state at this moment. He seemed to realize something and called His Highness the Prince. The one who gave me that jewel, let me keep it for a while. Duke Aben seemed to realize something about Clovis. Asked again what happened now. Marquis Clovis checked the jewel and said, everyone, please don't get excited. Listen carefully to what I say. The jewel in his hand flashed, then quickly returned to normal. Clovis also gave his judgment. It seems Fiona and the darkness were both sucked into this jewel. When the scene shifted to Fiona, she realized she was taken to a space surrounded by darkness. Worried, wondering where this was, she kept assessing around. Continuing to think around was just pure black, seemingly no walls or ceiling, but there was a place to stand. She suddenly saw something far away, a red light attracting her gaze. She wondered, is that red light, is it? Like the light is calling me closer, or should I follow it? Fiona said to herself. That red light, are you leading me? Where should I go? It seemed to be somewhere very far. She followed the red light's guidance. Suddenly, a flash of light flickered, then disappeared. She whispered, too bright. The flash disappeared. Then ahead, a body tied tightly in midair. The thumping sound kept echoing since Fiona arrived. Fiona looked up. She realized that was Fiona. It was the soul essence of Fiona. In this world she approached, helped her up, asking why she was tied like this, Fiona. This cobweb is, what is this? She called out loudly. Fiona, wake up, just called. Fiona struggled to pull the cobwebs tightly. Binding her suddenly, a burst of dark magic flared, forcing her to release her hands from the webs. She guessed. The power just now was definitely dark magic. This place was filled with magic. Fiona was also restrained in power. Finally, she came to a conclusion. This was inside the jewel. Fiona continued to speculate clearly that she only had thoughts of sealing the darkness and told Chow only, why did Fiona and I, when she was lost in thought, hear a voice say, it's too late to separate me and her now. She loudly asked, who is that who is imprisoning us here? The voice replied, I was the first to reach out to her, comforting her loneliness, always by her side. Only I understand her pain. And finally she accepted me as if realizing something. She doubted. Could it be you? The voice replied, you guessed it. I am both envy and rage. Loneliness as well, the thing you call darkness. While she digested what the darkness just said, the voice continued, I am the strongest soul of a mage. Next I will devour you, down to the bone. And then I will have everything back to the Sigrin people. A voice shouted. Fiona was sucked into that jewel. Why did that happen after all? Marquis Clovis said, I don't know for sure. Only Miss Fiona knows the principle of how the jewel activates its power. Maybe that was Miss Fiona's intention, or there was some mistake. Duke Aben rubbed his forehead and spoke. That girl wouldn't make such a mistake. Surely everything was not in her plan. Damn it. At this moment, Siren asked, do we have any way to do something? We can't just stand by and watch forever. We have to do something. His face full of fear said, as long as we can find Fiona, I will do everything. If necessary, I am willing to bet my life. His voice grew more serious. Now Clovis pondered for a moment, then spoke. It's not that there's no way, Your Highness. Clovis looked at Sigrin seriously. Can you really do everything? The voice of darkness echoed. I will have everything. Fiona clenched her hand and loudly asked the owner of the voice, do you think you can have everything? You have been sealed in the jewel already. Everyone is stopping you to protect the world. Protect the world. The voice asked back her. A dark energy slowly approached and clung to Fiona's soul. The voice continued. If I get your power and hers, I won't be bound by that jewel. At this moment, Fiona's eyes flashed. She said, you deceived Fiona and pushed her into despair with lies. That's a pity. But I won't fall so easily. Her voice grew louder. I will rescue Fiona from you and return to our original world. After speaking, she raised her hand and began casting magic. Suddenly, a bunch of threads came to bind her arms. She was shocked, thinking magic couldn't be used. The voice scorned, in this space influenced by the outside. The spider threads bound both her arms painfully. The voice continued. You are now just a corpse. Fiona's magic power, you mage who ruled Halo, lies within Fiona's soul that I hold. You are just a puppet, separated between soul and body. She was painfully bound by the threads, screaming. Inside, she struggled. It's all over. Why? No, I can't give up like this, she shouted. Fiona, wake up. Are you going to give up everything like this? Use all your strength and shout, open your eyes before it's too late. Inside she also spoke. The future I want is not like this. The darkness spoke again. Then we become one entity, the only way for her to have happiness. If we can do that, there will be no more pain or sadness. Come on, become the most complete form. At this moment, both Fionas were bound close together. More dark energy flooded in wanting to invade and merge the two people in such danger. Inside her head suddenly appeared an image of Siren. The darkness screamed again. Now I will have everything. Her rough dark energy swallowed the two. At this time, the soul of the original Fiona sensed the dark energy and gradually opened her eyes. While Fiona on this side also struggled, thinking to keep herself conscious. This weak thought will not end here. I have someone I must face. Facing Fiona, bravely resisting the darkness. The original Fiona's soul asked, "Why, even after becoming like this, do you still try so hard? Why did you save me?" She smiled gently and replied, "That is because Fiona called me." Later in her subconscious, she silently said, "Not in every beautiful story can everyone be happy. If one laughs, that one must cry. And if that one dies, then someone else will live. This world is like the natural order, full of joy, anger, love, and hate, writing the story." She continued, saying that I myself opened this world and created everyone. The subconscious still kept speaking, because to paint a world like that, in the past it was said that if the sun rises, there will surely be a sunset. After the rain, the sky clears, and Fiona kept speaking to that soul as she knew, this is just a story written according to that rule. I thought that what has passed cannot be changed. Yes, I used to think that way. But she looked at Fiona's soul like a child she created, gently continuing. After knowing her, I couldn't ignore it when I saw her memories. How much she suffered. Only after resonating with her did I realize that. I am very sorry. She bowed sincerely and apologized. Fiona's essence coldly replied, "What good is apologizing now? I hate you." Nevertheless, she responded, I understand that so. Do you want to give me a chance to rewrite the ending? Because you are not Fiona's essence, surprised. Fiona looked back, and she continued speaking. I want to apologize to you with all I have. Pray, Fiona, with our will, let's change this ending. After she spoke, a bright energy was released, surprising the darkness. The light was emitted from both of them. Fiona was merging, as if both were resonating. One person yearned for happiness, and the other wanted her unhappy child to be happy. At this moment, both merged into one. The dark figure, confused, asked why the two united. What is that power? What exactly is it? By now, the light was strong enough to resist the dark energy. Fiona spoke. Your power no longer works on me, the darkness shouted. Why do you bring up such a foolish choice again? You betrayed me. The dark sorcerer's soul asked Fiona, and even the foolish prince in darkness. All of you only used me. I decided to abandon the deal with you. After falling, now I'm clear-headed again. I just want to talk to her a little more, the darkness said, having regained its will. If you try to block my path, I will use my power to subdue you. A dark energy rushed to attack Fiona. She smiled faintly. You forgot I have merged with AI. She also released a brilliant power, a light strong enough to pierce the jewel in the darkness. Following the light, divine power and dark power are always linked. With the divine power of Lady Eunice, she could affect the item trapped inside the jewel. At this time, Marquis Clovis was explaining to everyone about magical energy. He continued, although it currently only takes the form of an earring, because the darkness is sealed in this jewel, it is considered a huge disaster. If we cannot get Lady Fiona out immediately, the darkness we are trying to seal will be released, and we will have to fight against that destruction once again. Siren, now impatient, said, No, the safety of the world can only be considered when Fiona is here. He raised his voice. So let me see Fiona quickly. His sobbing voice echoed in the space. Fiona slowly opened her eyes. She unconsciously asked, Who is crying? Why is a little girl crying so sadly? She followed the crying to the source, finding a lonely little girl sitting there. She thought, This is my room in the Green Mansion. So the crying child was that little girl. She noticed someone approaching, turned her head, and a tear still ran down her face. It turned out to be young Fiona herself. Fiona now stepped beside the girl, greeted her, then smiled gently and said, Finally, we can meet properly, she quietly reflected. So small and fragile, yet I can still clearly recognize you. Fiona, though worn down by darkness thousands of times, remained strong and pure, and still existed somewhere in this heart. She softly said, "Fiona, I'm sorry." Then the little girl bowed her head onto her knees. Her hand brushed away the tears Fiona had just wiped. The girl said, "Sorry, it's too late now to change anything. I still haven't decided whether to forgive you." She gently soothed the child who had suffered too much. She calmly said, "I'm not saying that just apologizing will be forgiven. Do you still remember what I said earlier?" Fiona was reminding her about that offer. The words still echoed in the girl's mind. "Can you give me a chance to rewrite the ending since you're no longer in this reality?" Fiona continued. "If there's a chance to create a different outcome than before," the girl looked up, her eyes a bit brighter. Fiona's hands intertwined with the girl's. Gripping the small hands tightly, "I will try everything," Fiona said. The girl, Fiona's subject, still spoke sadly. "Everything is painful. I hate it so much I want to erase it all. Why is it that only when I gave up everything did you come? It's too late." Fiona's eyes were also sorrowful as the girl continued speaking. "And even without me, this story would still have a happy ending. Only I have to endure all the senseless suffering." She moved closer to the girl, wrapping her arms around her as if to embrace the girl's past wounds. In a steady voice, "You know, without you this story couldn't be completed. You're not a useless child. Because you are in this story, this world was born." The girl closed her eyes but still listened to Fiona's words. "I don't want to deny your existence because that would insult all the hardships you've endured. I won't erase your reasons." Those simple, comforting words. "So Fiona, I want to write a new story with you, for you, because you've suffered too much." Fiona's voice was clear like light, gradually creeping into the darkness of the girl's subject. "Fiona, are you curious how beautiful and worth living the world we create together will be? And how worthy of life?" The light outside shone on the girl's face. Fiona's hand reached out, waiting for the girl to take it. "Maybe the reason I came here isn't because you called me, nor is it punishment or opportunity." The door outside quietly opened. Light quickly poured in. Perhaps like the girl's once closed heart, she had opened the door to her heart. Fiona's gentle light was now flowing in, warming her. Fiona's voice rang out again. "I want to show you this story. I'm sorry for leaving you to bear that difficult role alone. Sorry for leaving you lonely." The room's door was now fully open. Fiona embraced the girl tightly. She whispered into the girl's ear, "Thank you. This time I won't leave you alone to see a different ending." The girl, held tightly by Fiona, began to shed tears. It was unclear if she felt comforted, or if it was some other feeling, only that the girl's tears kept falling, but surely this time, the tears were very different from the previous tears of pain. These were tears of healing. The space seemed renewed, where both were transformed into a sunny meadow full of flowers. Not as the villain, but together to see the ending. She began to use her power. "Clement, I am no longer a naive creator. I will rewrite the ending of this story," she asked Fiona. "If that can make you happy, I will do everything. Tell me what you want." The girl, still held by Fiona, began to think. "What I truly desire and long for is that I don't want to be alone anymore. Take me out of here," the girl continued, as if speaking to herself. "I want to live and count the happy days. My creator and my savior, when you wake up, you will be alone for a moment. Because inside the gem, the darkness has disappeared and it has become peaceful. But soon Siren, the one she loves, will risk everything to come save her. In his mind, there is only her. He will come to save her like a prince, and they will return together to the original world. After returning, don't be surprised if you don't see me, because you carry my heart. I will always be by your side like that. I am happy when you are happy and when you are sad, so please cherish and love that heart." At this moment, Fiona slowly opened her eyes in Siren's arms. Seeing him, she became happier than ever. Siren finally brought Fiona back. Eunice happily said, "Thank goodness both of you are safe." Duke Aben then rushed in. "Now is not the time to just stand and watch." Grabbing her father's hand, "Hurry! Everyone has rescued Fiona from the gem, but no one knows what happened." When she was sucked inside, Fiona's voice still whispered alone, no one could hear. Even Fiona. "From now on, I will watch to see how much you make me happy. That this world was created by myself, and I have taken on the role of a villain in the very world I created." Hearing those words, Count Green couldn't believe his ears. He held his face with his hands, deep in thought. Seeing this, Fiona immediately asked, "This is hard to believe, isn't it?" But deep down, she told herself she understood. No one can easily accept this truth immediately. As she thought, an indelible image appeared in her mind, about the tears of sorrow, about the deaths that still haunt her despite her self-reassurance. But she couldn't control her own actions as her hands unconsciously trembled. At that moment, she thought maybe it sounded like an unrealistic story to her father. Her hands were trembling, but it was all true. She didn't know what expression her father would have conned. Seeing his daughter's actions, the Count kept thinking about his daughter Fiona's past, didn't he? Father thinks you understand without needing to say it, right? I just want our father-daughter bond to be stronger, don't I? I want to hear you tell me about the life you've lived. Tell me, please. Although she said that, she already knew everything about her father's life. She then reflected on what she knew about him. The protector of the cold winter. The halo formula of the North appeared before her eyes. It was the image of the formula when he was young. He looked very handsome and dashing. That beauty was overwhelming to behold. Before I came to Halo in Fiona Avon's body, he had lived a life full of ruin. The Count's face looked more attractive than ever, his deep blue eyes shining brightly. He radiated an aura like the stars in the sky. In the sky. He lost both his father and younger brother when he was very young. The Count's tragic deaths gradually appeared. Even the only person who brought a little warmth to his life was his fiancée. At the same time, the image of him and his fiancée smiling and dancing together looked very warm. Had also left Aben in pain once again. The person he loved, his last hope, had gone. With nowhere to rely on, he could only fight alone against the cold snowstorms of the north. Alone in the snowstorm. It seemed heroic, but in reality it was extremely lonely and cold. His daily life gradually sank into loneliness, and with that loneliness came cruelty and brutality from those around him. Whispers and gossip about his life began to erupt. Nobles in the empire saw Aben as someone always distant from them and called him a cold-blooded man without tears. They even called him a ruthless murderer. But those were slanderous accusations against a man who had protected the country and upheld the northern wall. However, to Aben, all those words didn't matter. He had only one wish: to die. The image of the Count holding a blood-stained sword, covered in fresh blood, standing before his family portrait. It seemed fate was mocking him as all the worst tragedies were concentrated on that man. His life was stained with blood and loneliness, so Aben only wished to find peace as soon as possible. Back to reality, the Count spoke tenderly. But Fiona, I closed my eyes and pondered. Since you came to Halo, I began to think I want to live a little longer because I cannot leave my only daughter behind. After hearing those words, Fiona's eyes became sparkling as she looked at her father. He also gave a pair of eyes full of love and affection for that little daughter. At that moment, she blamed herself, just like Siren and the others. At first, she thought her father would always resent life for taking away his family. But no, his love for his family still burned like a flame that never goes out. That's why his love for her was so warm. Like the only relative, like a precious daughter. As she thought, images from childhood to adulthood, from happy times to sad, from pain to battles covered in blood.